We often hear about the importance of kindness and generosity. We're told to be helpful, compassionate, and to put others before ourselves. And while these are undoubtedly noble virtues, like all things in life, they exist on a spectrum. Too far in either direction, and the benefit sours into something undesirable. Today, we're going to explore the less discussed aspects of kindness, the potential downsides and hidden dangers of being too kind. We'll delve into 8 specific ways excessive generosity can backfire, leading to unintended consequences for both you and those you're trying to help. By understanding these pitfalls, we can learn to practice kindness in a way that is truly beneficial and sustainable. This journey requires a delicate balance between compassion and self-preservation, a dance between helping others and honoring your own needs. Remember, true strength lies not in endless giving, but in fostering healthy relationships built on mutual respect, responsibility, and a balanced approach to kindness. Let's begin. One of the most insidious dangers of excessive kindness is the potential to foster dependency in others. When we constantly rush to solve everyone's problems, we inadvertently rob them of the opportunity to develop their own resilience and problem-solving skills. Imagine a child who never has to clean their room. Sure, it's easier for the parent to just do it themselves, but what lesson is that teaching? The child never learns the value of responsibility, of taking ownership of their space. The same principle applies in all our relationships. If we constantly shield others from the consequences of their actions, if we become their perpetual safety net, we risk creating a dynamic of dependence. They come to rely on us as a crutch, rather than developing the strength to walk on their own. This isn't about being callous or uncaring. It's about understanding that true kindness sometimes means allowing others to struggle, to make mistakes, and to learn from their experiences. It's about empowering them to become self-sufficient, capable individuals. Think of the classic adage, give a man a fish, and you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish, and you feed him for a lifetime. That's the essence of healthy kindness, one that fosters independence rather than dependence. The world, unfortunately, is not composed solely of good-hearted individuals. Some people are adept at recognizing and exploiting the kindness of others, twisting it to serve their own selfish purposes. These individuals, often charming and persuasive, are drawn to excessive generosity like moths to a flame. They recognize in the overly kind individual an easy mark, someone whose good nature can be leveraged for personal gain. They'll shower you with flattery, play on your empathy, and weave elaborate tales of woe, all designed to tug at your heartstrings and loosen your boundaries. The danger here is not simply that you'll be taken advantage of materially, though that's certainly a risk. The deeper damage lies in the erosion of trust, the creeping cynicism that can poison your outlook on humanity. When you've been burned repeatedly by those who've abused your kindness, it's tempting to retreat into a shell, to view all acts of generosity with suspicion. That's why it's crucial to cultivate discernment, to develop the wisdom to differentiate between genuine need and manipulative ploys. It's about setting healthy boundaries, about recognizing that saying no is sometimes the kindest act of all, both for yourself and for those who would seek to exploit you. Kindness, while often portrayed as an effortless virtue, is not without its costs. Every act of generosity, every outstretched hand, requires an expenditure of energy, emotional, physical, or mental. And while these costs might seem insignificant in isolation, they have a cumulative effect, especially when we spread ourselves too thin. Imagine your energy as a finite resource, a wellspring that can be depleted if not replenished. Each act of kindness draws from this well, and if we're not careful, we can find ourselves running on empty. This can manifest as burnout, resentment, even physical ailments. We all have limits, a finite capacity for giving. Ignoring these limits doesn't make us more virtuous. It simply makes us less effective in the long run. Just as a car cannot run indefinitely without refueling, so too do we require periods of rest and rejuvenation to sustain our capacity for kindness. This isn't selfish, it's self-preservation. It's about recognizing that to be truly helpful to others, we must first take care of ourselves. It's about finding a sustainable balance between giving and receiving, between pouring out and filling up our own cup. One of the unintended consequences of consistent generosity is the potential to foster a sense of entitlement in others. When we habitually prioritize their needs above our own, when we become the perpetual givers, we risk creating an expectation of constant assistance. What begins as an act of kindness can morph into an unspoken obligation. The recipients of our generosity, accustomed to our unwavering support, may come to feel entitled to our time, energy, and resources. They may begin to take our kindness for granted, viewing it not as a gift, but as their due. This dynamic can breed resentment on both sides. The giver, feeling unappreciated and taken advantage of, may start to resent the very people they're trying to help. The recipient, meanwhile, may become blind to the sacrifices being made on their behalf, their sense of entitlement growing with each act of unquestioning generosity. The key here is to establish healthy boundaries, to make it clear that our kindness is a choice, not an obligation. It's about fostering a spirit of reciprocity, of encouraging a balanced exchange where giving is met with appreciation and, when possible, reciprocation. The pursuit of personal growth is a journey of self-discovery, of striving to become the best versions of ourselves. It requires introspection, discipline, and a willingness to confront our limitations. However, this pursuit can be hindered when we become overly consumed with the needs of others, neglecting our own growth in the process. While helping others is a noble endeavor, it shouldn't come at the expense of our own development. Constantly prioritizing the needs of others can leave us feeling depleted, with little energy or motivation to invest in our own aspirations. Imagine a gardener who spends all their time tending to their neighbors' gardens, neglecting their own. While their neighbors' flowers may flourish, their own garden will wither and fade. The same principle applies to our own lives. To live a fulfilling life, we must strike a balance between giving to others and investing in ourselves. We must carve out time for introspection, for pursuing our passions, and for cultivating our own growth. Remember, neglecting our own growth doesn't make us more virtuous. It simply diminishes our capacity to contribute meaningfully to the world. Kindness, in its purest form, flows from a place of genuine compassion and generosity. However, when we consistently give without receiving, when our acts of kindness are met with indifference or ingratitude, resentment can begin to fester within us. This resentment is not a sign of weakness or pettiness. It's a natural human response to feeling unappreciated and taken advantage of. It's a signal that our boundaries have been crossed, that our generosity is not being reciprocated. Imagine a well that is constantly being drawn from but never replenished. Eventually, the well will run dry. Similarly, our capacity for kindness, while vast, is not infinite. If we continually pour ourselves out without receiving anything in return, we risk depleting our emotional reserves, leading to resentment and burnout. The key here is to cultivate a spirit of reciprocity in our relationships. This doesn't mean keeping score or expecting something in return for every act of kindness. Rather, it's about fostering a dynamic of mutual giving and receiving, where kindness is valued and reciprocated. One of the most disheartening aspects of excessive kindness is the tendency for it to be taken for granted. When we consistently go above and beyond, always available to lend a helping hand, our efforts can become so commonplace that they cease to be appreciated. The people in our lives accustomed to our unwavering generosity may come to expect it as a given, rather than recognizing it as a gift. They may fail to see the effort, the sacrifice, and the genuine desire to help that motivates our actions. Imagine a beautiful sunset that occurs every single day. At first, people would marvel at its beauty, but over time the awe would fade as the sunset became commonplace, no longer inspiring the same sense of wonder. Similarly, our acts of kindness, when performed too often and without expectation of appreciation, can lose their impact. They become background noise, expected rather than appreciated. The key here is to practice kindness thoughtfully, to choose our moments, and to ensure that our efforts are recognized and valued. It's about setting healthy boundaries and communicating our needs so that our kindness is received as the gift it is intended to be. The desire to be kind and helpful can sometimes lead us down a slippery slope of compromising our own values and principles. In an effort to please others and avoid conflict, we may find ourselves agreeing to things that go against our better judgment or acting in ways that contradict our core beliefs. This can happen subtly, almost imperceptibly at first. We might justify our actions by telling ourselves that we're just trying to be nice, that it's not a big deal to bend our own rules for the sake of someone else's happiness. However, over time, these small compromises can chip away at our sense of self, leaving us feeling conflicted and unmoored. We may start to question who we are and what we stand for, as the line between genuine kindness and self-betrayal becomes increasingly blurred. True kindness should never come at the expense of our integrity. It's essential to remember that we can be compassionate and understanding without compromising our core values. Setting healthy boundaries and learning to say no when necessary are not acts of selfishness. They are acts of self-respect, essential for maintaining our sense of self and living in alignment with our truths. So, we see the potential pitfalls of untrammeled generosity. But this isn't an argument for callousness or for retreating into a shell of self-preservation. It's a call for nuance, for a deeper understanding of what true sustainable kindness looks like. It's about recognizing that our capacity for giving, while vast, is not limitless. It's about setting healthy boundaries, about learning to say no without guilt or self-recrimination. It's about understanding that sometimes the kindest thing we can do for someone is to allow them to face their own challenges, to learn from their own mistakes. True kindness is not about becoming a martyr to the needs of others. It's about fostering healthy, reciprocal relationships built on mutual respect, responsibility, and a balanced approach to giving and receiving. It's about recognizing that our own well-being is not separate from the well-being of others, but rather a necessary prerequisite for it.